Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a mod for Power. So let's just hop right in. The first thing you have to do is download Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2017. It's completely free. Best way to get that is just use Google. Type in Microsoft Visual Studio 2017. You'll get this right here, Visual Studio older downloads. So we'll click that. I don't use 2019. It might work with it. I only know that for sure 2017 works because that's what I use, as you can see here. So you'll have to scroll down and expand this out, and you'll see that part of this download installer, it comes with Visual Studio Community 2017, which is free, and that will work perfectly for Power. So go ahead and download that installer, and then what's going to happen is, let's see, there's a couple extra steps you have to take with Unreal. Really just one when you're installing it that you have to make sure that you do. So we'll just type this in. So you should type in Unreal Engine Visual Studio 2017 setup. This is not necessarily a video. Just click the first link here, setting up Visual Studio. It's from unrealengine.com. And so once you download that installer for Visual Studio, basically what you need to make sure you do is just make sure you select the game development with C++. I don't know what you call this like package that comes with it. And then make sure that, these three check marks are selected: the profiling tools, the Windows 10 SDK, and the Windows 8.1 SDK. They also recommend down here that you install the Unreal Engine installer. Don't bother with that. All you need is this for right now, and then you can install Visual Studio 2017. So I already have it installed. I'm not going to go through that whole process. I'm pretty sure you guys can figure that out. But like I said, just make sure you select this game development with C++. Those are some extra tools that get installed. Don't bother with this installer because we're going to do that separately. So at that point, you should eventually get this icon on your desktop. Visual Studio is installed. That's good. So the next thing you want to do is you actually want to download the Unreal Engine. So of course, just Unreal Engine, download. Click unrealengine.com. You'll go ahead and download not the actual Unreal Engine. You'll end up downloading the Epic launcher, I guess you call it. And so once that's downloaded and installed, you end up getting this thing here, like in your system tray. You get this application, and it's through this that you end up installing all your Unreal Engine versions. So here on the left, you can click Unreal Engine. You can go to your library. You have to use 4.24. I'm using 4.24.1. I know that they have 4.24.3 out now, and I think they only have the latest minor version or sub-minor version available. So you probably won't be able to get 4.24.1, but you can get 4.24.3. So the way to do that, and you don't want 4.25, which is, I think they have a preview version out right now. So you'll just click this plus button, and then there's this drop down right here. And you need to click that. And then through here, you can actually select which specific version you want. You will have in yours something that probably says 4.24.3. So you'll want to get that. It doesn't show in mine because I already have 4.24.1 installed. So make sure you select 4.24.3 from this dropdown and get Unreal Engine installed. And so At that point, you'll have Unreal Engine and Visual Studio, but you need both of those to do modding for Power. So let's see. At that point, once both of those are installed, you can go to the Atomic Lollipop website. Oops. And from here, you can go to Power, and you'll have to actually scroll down once you click that, and you can hit Download ModKit. And so there it is in our Downloads folder. So we'll go ahead and extract that. And this is what the ModKit looks like. The ModKit is actually just an Unreal Engine project that has a bunch of like utilities and things that help you create mods for Power. So at that point, we want to kind of set up our development environment on our local machine. So we'll keep this open. The first step in setting up that development environment to create mods for Power is just go to your C drive. You want to put this stuff into the root of your C drive if possible, because Unreal Engine has issues with like really long file names. So if you put this into like a folder like really deep in your computer, you very well might run into compilation errors. So as you can see, Power's developed right in the root of the C drive. So you're going to want to do the same thing with the modding stuff. So you want to just make a folder and call it Power Modding. You can call it whatever you want. I don't know. I would probably just call it like this so that everybody, you have like a standard setup. It's easy to talk about with other people. All the paths will be set up already in, for example, the launch profiles that I'll be providing you. So let's see. So we created this C drive, Power Modding folder. And then inside of that, we're just going to go ahead and create a few folders we're going to need. So one's going to be called Builds. One's going to be called ModKit. And one is going to be called Mods. And so what we want to do is we extracted this downloads. We're actually just going to take this whole thing right here. We're going to copy all of it right into this ModKit folder. And the next thing we're going to want to do is I've also provided a couple launch profiles for you, which are really, it's nice because you don't have to set these up yourself. You don't have to configure them. And I'll kind of go through those with you and show you how they work and what they do. But you have to actually copy these into a different area of your computer. So I'll show you where that is. So back over here, we'll go to C drive. It'll be under Program Files, Epic Games, UE 4.24, Engine, Programs, Unreal Frontend, and Profiles. So I already have these in there. You're going to want to copy this and this, just copy and paste right into here. And that will give you some launch profiles that will allow you to essentially build the pack file that's going to be distributed to everybody, and that it's going to hold all of the contents of your mod. And this will just make it easy for you guys to compile those with the settings preset for you. So I've included those in the ModKit. Like I said, you just copy them over to here. And the next thing we're going to want to do is go back, so we can actually close this out. We don't need that anymore. That's done. We're going to want to create our first mod. So the way, well, actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and set up our kind of like compile and set up our mod kit here. So, well, you know, actually what it will do, we'll leave this as is because it'll keep this folder kind of clean where it doesn't have all the binaries and stuff that get built with the full thing. So we'll try it this way. Hopefully it'll work. I think it will. So all we need to make a new mod, so each mod will get its own project, and each project will then build a pack file. So to do that, we just start from this like mod kit kind of like home base or core folder, and we could just copy really just these 4 folders in this one file. So we can just copy that, and we're going to go to mods, this mods folder, and we're going to create a new mod. So it's really just another folder. We're going to call this Mr. Bones. That's going to be our mod that we create. You can call it whatever you want, but whatever you call it here, I tend to like make sure that everything is named like this. And I think it pretty much has to be, and you'll see why later. You want to keep this like naming convention through everything. And so let's go ahead and go in there, and we're just going to paste our mod kit project right into there, just like that. So very clean. So let's see. The next thing we're going to want to do is I guess we'll go ahead and generate the Visual Studio project files. So you just right click, generate project files, and it will start to generate those Visual Studio project files for us. And you'll see a bunch of stuff gets created here that we need to open this and build it in Unreal Engine. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to load now what it did is it created this solution file, this SLN file, and that's what we need to open in Visual Studio. So we're going to open Visual Studio 2017, and we're just going to go to Open Project Solution, and we're going to go to C drive, power modding, mods, or Mr. Bones mod, and we're going to open the solution file that was generated. And so at this point, what we're going to do is we're just going to go to build, and we're just going to say, we'll actually go to debug, just to make sure this works. And then we're going to go to start without debugging. So we just click that. And so that will actually compile and build the project for our mod, which is based off of the mod kit that you downloaded. So it's currently compiling everything right now and building. So we'll just kind of wait for that. It does take about, 30 seconds or so. And it should just work out of the box. When you right-clicked and hit Generate Project Files, back out here on this U project, right-click, we hit Generate Visual Studio Project Files. It actually configured essentially Visual Studio for you, which is nice. And it made all the settings exactly how they needed to be. And as you can see, it succeeded. And since we told it to start without debugging, it's actually starting it up. And there you go. So it actually built that and loaded it right into the Unreal Engine. And so what we want to do, you can just dismiss this. So this is good. I like to just down here at the bottom left, just expand out this view here in our content browser. But we're going to go ahead and close this. So I just wanted to make sure that it built and loaded. So And so at this point, you can see, so like out here at this point, we've really completed a lot of the setup for the mod project that we need to do. But there's still some more manual stuff we need to do to finish setting it up. So I think I'm going to get rid of this for now. And so we already have a plugins folder here. So all mods in Unreal Engine are plugins. It's just the way that Epic did it. And so the way to get a mod started, obviously, is you create this project, but you have to go to plugins then. And then we're going to create a new plugin or a new mod called Mr. Bones. So again, like I said, try to keep that naming convention all the way through because it does matter eventually. You'll see why. And from there, we need to create our own like plugin file and our own folder inside of this. So I've actually provided a template for you in the mod kit. So we'll grab that. So, well, you can go back here even, back to Power Modding, to the mod kit. See this U plugin template text? So I'll go ahead and just copy that. Well, let's see. So this is what it looks like. It's just a text file right now. And you can just copy this here. The contents of that. And then go back to your mod. Plugins. Mr. Bones. And then you can just create your own just new text file really. And you can just, let's see. Again, Mr. Bones. And we just say .u plugin. Yep. We want to change it. And actually make it so it opens with Sublime Text. And so when I open that U plugin file, it's really just a text file, and I can just paste in the contents of that template. Save it. So anywhere there's like these X's, you want to replace that with your own information. So of course we want to call the friendly name. We'll just call it Mr. Bones. I don't think it has to have the exact convention. So you can have spaces and dots and stuff in there. Of course, we'll put, who we are, who it was created by, the person or the company. That's myself. The URL to your website if you have one. I suppose you could just leave that blank if you don't have one. Leave this 4.2, 4.0. Description. Anything you want there. I'm just going to put a placeholder in for now. And we can save it. And that's it. So for that part, so we can close that. So yeah, so we have our own U plugin file that has all the information about our plugin. The next thing we're going to want to do is create our own content folder in here. And that's really all you need to kind of get a plugin / mod going. You just create this U plugin file. You create a content folder in there. And let's see. And that's it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to now again load this back in. It might already be loaded when I load Unreal Engine. So I've never been able to load stuff through like double clicking this. I always have to load the Unreal Engine and then load the project. So, and yeah, this should be that project. We'll go ahead and make sure. So I'll just go to open project, browse. So yeah, Power Modding, Mr. Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is it. I think we're already have that loaded, so I think we're fine. Yeah, we can also tell here. So what happened is when we created that plugin, it actually created this extra folder down here at the bottom, and that's where you're going to be doing all of your work. You're not going to want to put any of your mod or assets essentially into this main content directory. Instead, you have your own content directory that we created as a plugin, which will eventually become a mod or a pack file. A little confusing, I know, but if you just follow this, you'll be fine. So let's see what's next. So what we want to do, it gets a little weird, but you want to, it's a little trick I created to make sure that when you do package this, all the assets get packaged into the pack file. So you want to just right click this plugin folder and hit new folder, and you literally just give it a random, just like some random like letters and numbers like that. The reason is there seems to be a kind of a bug in Unreal Engine where if after you package this mod, we're going to check the pack later, and if it's missing items, then you have to literally change this to something else random, and it will magically, when you package it, everything will be in the pack file. So you'll see as we go, but just trust me on that. You want to do it here because if you don't create this folder with this random stuff, you'll have to like manually rename every single file, which is obviously not going to happen. So it's better just to have this folder that you dump everything into, rename that, and then everything will get packaged. I know it's weird, but it works. So yeah, create something random, a random folder name inside of that. And let's see. So the next thing we're going to want to do is, in the previous video, we actually created an FBX model, or we took a mesh off the internet and we rigged it to our standard bones. We're not going to cover that in this video, but in the previous video that was already done, and so we were left off with these two files, I believe. And so what we're going to do is kind of carry off from where we were there, and we're just going to import this model into our mod project, and that's going to be the mod that we distribute and that everybody can play with in Power. So to do that, we are going to say this, we're going to click this with this selected, this folder selected, we're going to hit import. Mine's on my desktop, so I'm just going to go to this bones folder, and I'm going to just import this FBX file. So there's a few, we do need to make sure there's a couple settings here that are very important to set. So we're going to expand this out here. So first off, we want to attach this. So I guess I'll show you, before we import this, I'll show you kind of like some of the pieces here. So we do provide some helper pieces. This is why we have distributed this mod kit. For example, you need to have a reference. You need to attach this model to an existing skeleton in the game so that it works with all the animations. So we've actually provided these models for you. More specifically, we provided this skeletal mesh that you can attach your model to when importing. We also have the first person, like the arms skeletal mesh as well for you guys. So that's all here in this main content folder that we've just distributed. So when you import yours, you're gonna have to link it to those pieces. So we'll try that now. So we'll go to import FBX, and so the first thing we're gonna want to do is we want to link it to the skeletal mesh. So that will be this one, this SK Gladiator low poly. The other thing we're going to want to do is where it says normal import method, you're going to want to choose import normals and tangents. And you're going to want to not create a physics asset. You're going to want to link it to the physics asset that we provided. which is this one right here, this PH Gladiator, low poly. So again, you want to make sure it's linked to the skeletal mesh that we provided, and you want to make sure it's linked to the physics asset that we provided, and you want to make sure that you have import normals and tangents. Then you want to hit import all, and you'll get these. So the first thing I like to do is just kind of rename this stuff. So skeletal meshes, you should always use a good naming convention. So skeletal meshes are like SK underscore, and then just call it like Mr. Bones. So there you go. So that's the Mr. Bones skeletal mesh. We'll call this textures. I like to prefix with a T. So capital T underscore Mr. Bones. So as you can see, it's just the prefix that's differentiating the file names. And then for this, it's a material. So we want to say M underscore Mr. Bones. All right, let's see. All right. So the next thing we're going to want to do well, let's keep preparing this actually. So we're going to want to first off modify our material. In this case, it may be different in every case, but for this particular material, we want to set it to masked. And so what that does is it treats anything black as transparent. So this is the texture sample. This material's already been kind of like set up for us a little bit. We're going to want to then take this alpha channel here and just plug it into the opacity mask. And so that just means it's going to take anything black and make it opaque, basically make it see-through. So you get this now. So you can see anything black is now transparent because we chose masked, and then we plugged this alpha channel from this texture sample into the opacity mask on the material. So then we're going to want to choose two-sided. And so that way we can see the bones on the back side as well. And then we're going to want to hit apply. It's really important. And then we'll have to save it. See that little star? So we just need to save it. I just hit save all. And as you can see, if we load the skeletal mesh now, it has a nice texture applied with transparency, and you can see the bones very nicely. And as you can see, it's set up in an A pose because we connected it to our existing skeletal mesh that came with the mod kit. And so let's see what the next piece is. So what we'll do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and create a skeletal mesh. A skin metadata file. So the skin metadata, it's basically the file that describes like a single skin in the pack. So the power code will look for this file, and if it's there, it will pull information from it. So that file you'll see in a second will link to, this skeletal mesh here, this texture, and some other pieces as you see as we'll build into this. So yeah, let's take a look. So we'll go to blueprints. We'll go to our mods folder, and then I actually have provided as part of the mod kit a base file that has the correct variables that need to be filled out for some skin metadata. So what you want to do is, it's really important. You don't want to copy this file. You want to actually click it, right click it, and hit create child blueprint class. So that will create a child of this parent. We won't name it yet. What we're going to do is, again, this is in our content folder. We don't want to operate in here. So we want to actually move this. So we just drag it to our plugin folder here and just hit move here. Not copy, but move. So that gets it out of there. And then we'll go look at it here, and then we'll give it a name. Now it's very important. The Power Game will look for something very specific. So it's going to look for SMD underscore, which means skin metadata. So it's going to look for that. So we have to make sure we put that prefix on. And then we want to say Mr. Bones. And there we go. So the other thing we're going to do, so if we open this, we'll see we need to fill out these default parameters. We're missing a couple things, which we're going to go into in a second. I'm going to have to do a little bit of searching because I actually forgot to get a first-person arms, but hopefully I'll be able to find that pretty quick, even during this video. But yeah, so we do need to fill this out for the skin metadata. So the name is just going to be Mr. Bones. The author is myself. We need to point it to the skin skeletal mesh. So we just click this drop down and we choose the one that we created. So we want to have our, not the one, see these are in the main, but we want to choose the actual plugins skeletal mesh here so that we can actually see it here. We don't have the first person yet. We're going to do that, and we don't have this thumbnail. So we're going to create that as well. But we got the first part filled out. So we'll compile that. We'll save it. So let's try to get the first person arms in here. I'm going to see if I can find this. So I might have a copy in here somewhere. Oh yeah, kind of got lucky. There it is right there. So I'm going to copy this path, and I'm going to import these arms as well, because every skin needs to have the external representation of it, and you also need the the first person representation, which are just the arms. So we'll go to import, we'll go to that folder, we'll choose Bones arms, we'll import it. So in this case, we got to do kind of the same thing, but we're going to link it to, instead of the full model, we're going to link it to these arms. So again, this is provided with the mod kit, so you can just choose FPS arms as the skeletal mesh to link it to. So that way they animate with our pre-existing animations. So we link it to our skeletal mesh we provided, import normals and tangents, turn off create physics asset, and then also choose the physics asset we provided for the arms. So we're going to import all. Few errors, that's fine. This actually does all still work. And then what we're going to do is, I think we can just link this directly to this existing material here. So we'll open the skeletal mesh, and we'll actually point it to this Mr. Bones material that we had created earlier. So as you can see, everything UV mapped correctly, and we just have this first person representation of the arms of the skeleton. So you will need to create that yourself. It can be these can be created the same way as in the previous video. Again, it's just it's basically just the the third person, but just all that mesh deleted, with just the arms rigged up to the skeleton. So, and now since we've relinked that, we should be able to just delete it. Imported this blank material, we should just be able to delete that now. So we just right click delete, and yeah, it's not complaining that it's just saying that it's in memory, I think, or not even that. So yeah, we'll just delete that. And there you go. So the final thing we need to do is we do need to bring in a thumbnail. That thumbnail, you'll be able to see that in game represented in the skins menu. So people get like a visual representation of the mod just for a good user experience. So we'll just import. I have a thumbnail on my desktop we can use. So we'll just bring that in. So this is actually a texture 2D. You can see that up at the top there on that menu or that pop-up. So, and you can also tell like color coding, red is a texture. This is blue is like is a blueprint. This kind of pink is a skeletal mesh, green's a material. So red, we know it's a texture. So again, we're just going to say T underscore, and we're going to say like Mr. Bones thumbnail. Just give it a unique name because we already have a T Mr. Bones in here. Yeah. So what we want to do now is finish setting up our skin metadata. And we want to point our, it kind of opened it into a different view this time. If you want the previous view, you can always hit this open in full blueprint editor. Not really necessary because we're just filling out this default data right here. So yeah, we want to point it now to, let's see, did we rename this? We should rename this too. So we'll do this as sk underscore Mr. Bones, like arms, something like that. Give it a unique name. It's a skeletal mesh. Go back here, click down here. So we find it. So it tells you what it's looking. So we're looking for this, for the FP means first person. So it's looking for the skin first person skeletal mesh, which is the arms. And then finally, we have to actually give we can't just select the thumbnail from a dropdown due to some issues we were having in the game. So you have to actually, for the thumbnail, since we're kind of like hot loading in a texture into the game, it has a special way to do that. So we have to actually put just the name of the texture. So if you go back, let's compile that really quick. If you go back, we can just F2 copy. This is just the name of our thumbnail here that we're going to be using, and we can just paste that right into this field. Compile, save, and boom. We have fully completed the setup of our skin metadata. Now remember, like Power doesn't really care about these so much. All it's looking for is this. And then this has in here all the references that Power needs to these, right? So all of your skins can just have this. Now, interestingly enough, if you want, you can actually create as many of these SMDs within here as you want. So you can literally have, multiple skins in one pack, in one mod, right? So you can have like we were joking about the Power Rangers mod pack and have like 5 Power Ranger models. Now, if you do create different skins, you do need to have, each skin needs its own skeletal mesh. Even if it's the same mesh and it just has like a different material. And the reason is because inside of the skeletal mesh is what's referencing the actual material. So for example, we might have like Mr. Bones blue, Mr. Bones red, Mr. Bones like purple, Mr. Bones green. And so we'd have different materials for each one. We'd have a different skeletal mesh for each one that was referencing each individual material. And we'd have a different skeletal mesh, skin metadata for each one. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. You can also create subfolders in here if you want. It will scan recursively through them. So you can kind of organize it from this point any way you want. You could have each skin in its own subfolder with these inside of each subfolder. To keep this simple, I'm just going to have one skin here. So let's see what's next. So we're actually ready to build our pack file to package this. And so to do that, we have to go to Window. We'll go and close these out just to keep it clean. We'll go to Window, and you go to this thing called Project Launcher. And so this is really interesting. This, and what you'll notice is down here, you have these custom launch profiles. So those are those things that we copied over from the mod kit earlier, and they're just pre-configured to build. So if what we want to do is just go to Edit Profile on the game launch profile, and you can see there's a bunch of settings here. You can expand out this release DLC. You can expand out this advanced settings. And I don't think you have to actually change anything in the game one. I'm just kind of showing you it. We won't go through all these settings. Again, it's already all been kind of done for you. So you can just hit back up here at the top right. But mainly, when we want to build a mod, the first thing we have to do, since we've never built with the game before, we just have to go over here and hit launch this profile. And that will actually build this like overall project. And if you don't do that, you'll get errors when trying to build the mod. So hopefully this just goes through automatically and we just get green check marks all the way down. And that's just building, like I said, this overall game. We're not actually even building the mod yet. We're just building this top part up here. So you can actually watch it. It does take a little bit of time. So you can see everything it's doing here. It's logging. You'll get a bunch of warnings. Don't worry about it. It should be fine. You just don't want any errors. Warnings are okay. Theoretically, those should be eliminated as well, but it will still build. So that passed, and it tells you it took about a minute. It's cooking some content right now. That passed. And we got all green check marks. That's really good. So you want to hit done down here. So what we did is we just ran this game one because we have to. The next thing we want to do is we do need to edit this mod launch profile a little bit. And so that mod one's going to actually build this stuff we just built into its own pack file. And that pack file is what we end up distributing and what ends up getting loaded. So what we need to do is we do need to go here. You go to Edit Profile. Again, there's a bunch of settings. The only thing you need to worry about, I think, in this right here is really two things. It's the name of your mod. And this is where I was talking about earlier, that you need to have consistent naming. Because what ends up happening is Unreal, the only requirement is that this name in the launch profile has to actually match the name of the plugin. So this and this need to match. So what I like to do is just keep everything so that I never mess that up. I like to keep everything the same name. So you'll have a different name here because you'll have called your mod something else. You need to make sure that before you run this, that it has the same name, or else you probably will get errors, and it might confuse you. So make sure you change that right there. You should be using C drive modding, power modding / builds if you followed these, if you followed this video. But in the event that you put this into a different directory, you do need to specify like where you want it to build to. Now, make sure that you create some kind of separate build folder, or you will run into issues. So you want it to build outside of the main content folder. You do not want it to build in here. I can't remember exactly why, but it created issues for me. So just make sure it builds externally. So that's why I created this external builds folder. Anyways, main thing, make sure you change this name to match the name of your mod. That's the most important thing. Everything else is already set for you. The main thing here is that you're building it as DLC. Downloadable content, which is this build DLC checkmark. But again, that's already set for you. So you go back, and what you do is then you literally just launch the mod profile. And again, it just starts going through and building the mod for us. It's actually it's compiling it, building it, cooking it, and packaging it into a pack file. So what happens is all of this stuff here, everything gets thrown into one single file. I don't think it's compressed, but it's just a way to, make it easy to distribute and load in content into Unreal Engine, right? It's just a single file. So that's what it's doing. It's packaging it, and look at that. All green check marks. That's really good. And then here's where it gets a little weird. Like Epic, they have some like crazy folder structures that they use. So let's go take a look at that really quick. So if we go back, here's our mod, here's Mr. Bones. So we did have this, let's see. It's actually in here under plugins, Mr. Bones. So it's a Mr. Bones project, plugins, the Mr. Bones, actual mod is in plugins under Mr. Bones. And inside of here, let me take a look. Hey, I'm sorry. The build is actually out here. So C drive power modding. This is where I had set the builds to run. Like I was saying earlier, outside of this, you do not want to build them in here. Apologize for that. So it's C drive power modding. And then right in there into this builds folder, you have builds. Then there's this other folder. And so we're just going to start drilling down, and you'll see it's kind of confusing. So it's like power modding, builds, Windows No Editor, Destructoid. This was the original name of the project. That's why it's called that. I was never able to change that, so that's what it's called. For now, forever probably. So under plugins, Mr. Bones, content, packs, Windows No Editor again, and there you go. Now, I can already tell, well, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a little bit low. So I can tell that it probably didn't package all the files, which is kind of good because I'm going to show you how to fix that. But what we're going to do is we need to actually check the pack file once it's packaged. And so to do that, we just open up a command prompt. So you just type CMD, right click, run as administrator, hit yes. And what we need to do is we need to run Unreal Pack.exe. So let me show you where that is. It's a utility. It's a binary that's provided with the engine. So from command prompt, we can just cd \, and that takes us out to the root, and we can type cls to clear screen. You don't have to do that, but I recommend getting out to the root C drive here. And we actually need to go into Unreal Engine from here. And so what we're going to do is just type cd, pro, just start, and then you can just hit tab and it will auto-complete it. So cd is just change directory. Then we can go to cd, Epic Games, change directory to our Unreal Engine. And then let's go into the engine itself and go into the binaries folder. And so from this folder, program files, Epic Games, UE 4.24 engine binaries, we do have an Unreal pack exe. So, and we're going to use that to actually check this pack file, the contents of it. So what I'm going to do is just type unreal pack.exe space, and then I'm going to copy this huge path here because I don't want to type that, obviously. I can just right click and it pastes it, then space, and then do a dash list. I wonder what I messed up there. I forgot to go into one more directory. So dir, so cd win64, that's where we want to be. Now from here, let's try that again. So unreal pack.exe, paste our path, and then list out the contents of that pack folder. So it's doing that now. Interesting. I've never seen this before. A bunch of like errors. Oh, I see. I didn't actually specify a pack file. So what I'm going to do is just copy the full command. So it should look something like this. So the only difference between this and what I put up here is I actually forgot to put in the actual name here of the pack file, which would have been this. So I'll actually just I'll just rebuild that with you guys here. So we just do unreal pack.exe space. Let's grab this. So paste that, backslash, grab the full file name. Let's paste that, space, dash list, and hopefully this works. And boom. So it finally analyzed this pack file. As tedious as that is, it's very necessary because as you can see here, it's actually missing like everything in here, which really confused me for a while. So to this day, I haven't really figured out a better way to do this. I had to come up with this solution on my own. I don't know. Maybe someone will tell me later a better way to make this happen. But to actually make this work, what you have to do, crazily enough, is you just have to change this folder name to like anything else. And from that point, you have to actually go back to the project launcher, and you can just hit done, and you can actually just have to rerun this mod launch profile, which will just repack the mod with this new name. And it is, I mean, hopefully it works, but you'll see that I think now that we changed that name, it will actually package all of this into the pack file. So anytime it doesn't pack everything into the pack file, you just have to change this for some reason. Like I said, maybe there's a better way to do it. I don't know. I wasn't able to figure it out myself. But luckily I was able to figure it out this way. So again, we can just go back to here. We want to check the content. So I can just hit up and it will actually just rerun that last command. And boom, look at that. We got lucky. As you can see, there's actually everything is packaged now into this pack file, which is really good. As you can see, it wasn't before. The way we did it, we just changed the name of this folder, and then Unreal was like, okay, cool, I can see all this, I'm gonna package it now. That's why it's really important to run this Unreal pack, just to ensure that everything's there. You can kind of tell just by like the file sizes. See, before it was only like 80 kilobytes, and now it's like 327 kilobytes. So I can tell already that there's like something in here, you know, even just by the file size. But yeah, it's always good to like check this. You should even read and just make sure, yeah, it's got like the skin metadata. You know, it's got the material, the skeletal mesh, the textures that we put in, right? So it's got all the stuff we need, all packaged up into this one little nice .pack file. So we're actually done with this. We can just close that out. We know this thing packaged correctly now. So let's see what the next thing is. So from this point, what I like to do is I have this, because you have to actually take this pack file and combine it with a bin file, this asset registry.bin that gets generated. So that all got generated, and I'll show you where that is in a second here. That got generated when we compiled everything. So what I'm going to do is I already have this mods folder here on my desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder in there, call it Mr. Bones again. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just copy this pack file and just paste it into there. And what I want to do is, again, I want to keep that naming convention. So I just want to get rid of this stuff here that Unreal added to it. It's unnecessary, destructoid when there's no editor. We just want it to say MrBones.pack. Again, everything is named the same. And then we have to go find the bin file. Again, Epic did this. I don't know why they, or how they're doing, or like why they chose this crazy folder structure. But the bin file is in like some other completely different area. So let's go see if we can find it. So it's actually in, let's see, power modding, whereas the pack file was under builds. It's actually, the bin file ends up getting placed under mods. Mr. Bones, then plugins, Mr. Bones, saved, cooked, Windows No Editor, Destructoid, plugins, Mr. Bones again, and there you go. That's your asset registry. So this is just the asset registry. So what this is like, remember how we looked at the contents of the pack file? Well, that's what this is. This is just a database, really, I guess you could say. It's a binary file, it's a bin file, but it's a listing of all the contents of this pack file. And you need to copy that and paste it. And so every mod needs to have the bin file and the pack file in just together in one folder, basically. And that's why I copy and pasted this, from these other disparate folders into this, just so we can package it up easily and upload it. So let's see what's next. So at this point, we've actually created our mod, and it's actually ready already to be uploaded to the Steam Workshop. And so from the Steam Workshop, that allows other people to download your mod. It allows people to also, they can subscribe to your mod and then host it when they start a server. And then it also allows other players who are like joining a server, it will automatically download from the workshop. So the workshop is just a centralized repository of like all the mods for Power, where they can be browsed, subscribed to, and downloaded from. So it's really important to take your mod once it's created and upload it to the Steam Workshop. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So to do that, the mod kit has a level that I programmed that has like an interface to upload to the Steam Workshop. Steam has like no other way to upload besides, having the developers create their own upload interface, which kind of makes sense because you need to upload to your own workshop. So they can't really provide a global way for everybody to do that, but who knows? Anyways, I had to program my own in my own clever way. And we're going to go through that right now. So it's already in the mod kit, and it's already set to this Steam Workshop uploader map. So all you have to do, the most important thing is you can't just hit play. In order to have a connection to Steam, you need to actually have it run in standalone. So I think also I need to be connected to Steam. So I'm going to load Steam right now. So make sure Steam's loaded. You should see it in your system tray. So that's really important. And then at this point, you can just go to standalone game and, this drop down, standalone game, run that. And what that does is it loads this map into like a separate window. And this here is that map, and this is this little interface that I created. This is the Steam Workshop uploader. And so what we're going to do is, the idea is we want to point all of this. We want to basically upload off our desktop this mods Mr. Bones information here. So for it to appear in Steam Workshop, we want to give it a name. So we'll call it like Mr. Bones, a description, and we have to actually give it the what's called the absolute path. It's like the full path. So it would be, for example, like C:, backslash, or forward slash. It actually needs forward slashes, but my code, I think, will automatically switch a backslash to a forward slash. So yeah, it'll be, in my case, it's on my desktop. So this is the mod folder path. So if I'm just going to paste that in. So it's, for me, it's just C drive, users, my username, my desktop, and then it's this mods folder. So see, so what it's going to do, it's going to, this is actually the mods folder. It's going to basically upload the contents of this. So it's going to upload this folder, which contains my bin and pack file, to the Steam Workshop as a mod. So that's how you set it up. You give it to this root path here to the mods folder, which contains a folder of the mod with the bin and pack contents. And then also, the other requirement for Steam is you have to have a thumbnail. So you need a title, description, the actual mod contents, and the thumbnail. So the thumbnail in my case is, it's on my desktop as well. It's this Mr. Bones thumbnail.jpg. And so you do need to actually give it the full absolute path along with the file name of the thumbnail. And so this is what it looks like. And so once all this information is filled out, you can hit upload, or just click that. And upload's a little weird. Like, you'll see that for some reason Steam tends to disconnect often. And so I have this, you'll see I have this weird retry system. And basically the idea is you just want to get 2 results okay. And that means everything was uploaded properly. If you don't get that, you can just wait about 20 seconds for it to finish its cycle of it retrying to upload. And you can just hit upload again. And eventually, usually by the second time, you'll get 2 OKs. But we're just going to go ahead and try to upload this ourselves right now to the Steam Workshop. So we're going to hit upload. And we got an OK, result OK, that's good. It's uploading right now, and we got an OK. Like I said, oftentimes you'll get some like error message here, and then you'll see it bouncing back and forth. And sometimes you don't get 2 OKs, and you have to actually just click this again. I wouldn't click it any more than that at this point, because every time you click this, it would just, only if you don't get 2 OKs, it'll actually like upload multiple mods, which you could delete. But in this case, believe it or not, we've actually uploaded our mod to the Steam Workshop already. So we can actually just close this out. And what we can do is, if we want to check that, we can go to, power on Steam. So here it is, power on Steam. And we want to go to our the Power Community Hub. And we want to go to the workshop here. Now, it can take up to like 5 minutes to appear in the workshop, but what we need to actually do is go to Browse Items. And so, yeah, we're gonna have to wait a second here. It usually doesn't take 5 minutes. It can take about a minute or so, but we'll just wait. Hopefully it'll appear there soon. And so after this, I guess I'll just talk about what we're going to do next is, once it appears here, anybody can subscribe to it. And so once they're subscribed to it through here, Steam, this client here, will automatically download that information. I'll kind of show you where that goes while we're waiting. So when you subscribe to a mod, it goes into your program files, Steam, Steam apps, workshop, content. So right now you can see this is the ID of Power on Steam. This is just like a database file that lets Steam know like what you've subscribed to or not. As you can see, we're not subscribed to any mods at the moment, so it's blank in here. And then see inside of this folder, you'll have mod ID folders, and so we'll see that in a second here. So we'll just refresh again and look at that. So Steam does take a bit to like fully process it, but this is actually the mod that we just uploaded. And so if we click it, we can see information, the thumbnail. We can see our title, our description, and we can subscribe to it. So if I hit subscribe, or anybody can subscribe to this. Since we're the owner of it, we can also delete it. So we'll hit subscribe, and we're subscribed. And so what will happen is, since we're subscribed, this will tell Steam's, you can even see it's downloading right now. It will tell Steam to go download those files into this folder. So if we go back to content now, in this folder here, you can actually see, there it is. There's the mod, there's Mr. Bones, there's our bin and pack file, right? And so it's basically, you're basically done at this point. And so what you can do now, or anybody can do, since you're subscribed and you have these files, you can basically you can launch Power, right, from Steam as usual. We're not going to actually do that. But you can launch Power, you can play it. Since you're subscribed, when you host a server, this mod will already be a skin available to you to select in your lobby menu. And anybody who connects to you, whether they're subscribed or not, will download automatically from Steam Workshop that mod that you're hosting so that they have it as well. And everybody can play with that mod. So, I know it was a long video, it's kind of tedious and confusing, but that is the full process of making mods for Power. You can always come into our Discord and ask questions, and I'm happy to help you guys out if you have any questions. So thank you very much, and yeah, hope you guys have a great night. Bye.